Come along with me to Albedo Village, where your birth talent literally dictates your future. Most folks just get standard skills like farming, but the real jackpot, witchcraft, a super rare magical power. Today is selection day, a huge ritual for 15-year-olds to discover their powers. Our guy, Al, a quiet kid avoiding the spotlight. He is a sharp hunter apprentice who just prefers staying totally hidden. His older sister Horn, total local legend. She unlocked an epic dark hunter talent and got recruited by the king. Al absolutely does not want that life. He literally just wants to hunt and eat some delicious meat. Al has terrible blurry vision from a goofy childhood accident. His huge bear like Master Vect accidentally knocked him down a steep slope with an insanely loud fart. He bumped his head hard and could not see far away objects clearly anymore. Finally, his turn arrives. He touches the glowing magic crystal, and to everyone's total confusion, the word glasses just magically pops up. Watch closely. A literal physical pair of glasses appears in his hands. The soldiers and villagers are completely baffled. This is technically considered witchcraft, since he literally summoned a solid physical object, straight out of thin air. But nobody gets why anyone would ever want a glasses talent. The whole village treats him like a huge joke. But honestly, Al is secretly thrilled. He slides the glasses on, and for the first time in years, the whole world is crystal clear. He does not care about being a hero. He realizes this so-called useless talent actually lets him spot distant targets perfectly. During the huge village feast, Al hides away in the shadows to eat peacefully. His master Vect tracks him down, trying to cheer the kid up, completely assuming Al is miserable about his weird new talent. But Al just smiles back. He is simply overjoyed that he can finally see his targets perfectly. After eating, Vect guides Al back to his place, teasing that being a grown-up hunter takes way more than just having perfectly clear vision. After finishing up with their hunted prey, the intense smell always lingers around them. Al had actually saved up decent cash selling meat and leather to passing travelers, but honestly, this tiny village had absolutely nothing worth buying. If he could buy anything at all, it definitely would have been glasses. But hey, he just got those for completely free using magic. His veteran master calls him over right then, handing him a very special coming-of-age gift. A beautifully crafted, brand new composite bow made from ghost tree and tough black goat horn. So incredibly powerful, Al usually stuck with the tiny kid-sized bow because his vision was so bad. He always had to sneak up close, focusing entirely on pure accuracy instead of power. With this massive new weapon, he could finally hunt way larger beasts. While practicing, Al quickly realized this bow packed a much heavier punch than usual. His first shot missed completely, since he wasn't used to that crazy tension, but he was genuinely thrilled. He always rejected getting a new bow before this. He really did not want his master discovering how badly his eyesight dropped after that old accident. But now that he scored those awesome magical glasses, that was totally fixed. You and I saw this coming. Suddenly, his master says he must leave tomorrow. Because Al could summon those glasses straight from thin air, he technically possessed a real magician's talent. His master insisted he travel to the royal capital, register officially, and finally see the world. Vect truly believed Al held more pure archery potential than anyone around, and absolutely should not waste his life hiding in some tiny village. Al absolutely hated standing out and just wanted peace, but he really had zero choice. Bright and early next morning, soldiers arrived for him. The village gathered for a wonderfully confused goodbye. While his sister left to massive cheers years ago, everyone just awkwardly stared at Al, wondering why his magical talent was literally just making glasses. During the 2-day carriage ride to the capital, Al tested out his magic. He soon realized he could summon up to 3 pairs of glasses simultaneously before getting super dizzy. Returning those glasses to his magical pool would instantly refill his lost energy. Get this. Keeping them out long enough turned them into totally permanent objects that stopped draining his magical energy entirely. He even managed to creatively tint those lenses pitch black to block the glaring sun. Wait. Drop a like and subscribe for more amazing hidden manga gems. Now, I dare you to comment. I am loving it. Bet most of you will not. Okay, let's keep going. Arriving right at the grand capital, Al was completely blown away by those huge stone buildings and incredibly busy streets. They escorted him to the castle gates, meeting a bearded official named Leod and a strict-looking woman wearing glasses. When Al proudly showed off his power, simply summoning a pair of glasses right there, they were utterly shocked. The woman quickly tried them on, absolutely amazed by how insanely clear these lenses were compared to her blurry ones. Old man Leod was just frustrated. He had never heard of a glasses talent in the kingdom's entire history. Since this weird power was so rare, they literally could not decide if he was actually useful or completely worthless. They told Al he had to stay in the capital for a few days while the higher-ups debated what to actually do with him. So what do you and I take from this? Al never wanted a castle job, but those officials just vanished, stranding him in this huge city. Come along with me. After dodging the royal soldiers, Al finds himself completely stuck in the giant capital city. With total freedom and time to burn, he decides to track down Horn, his runaway sister, who dashed off 2 years ago for adventure. He remembers Horn as an absolute menace, the kind of wild kid who planted literal animal bones hoping a meat tree would sprout up. Honestly, the chaotic adventure lifestyle suited her perfectly. Al heads right for the Adventurer Guild, using insane stealth skills to ghost past grumpy guards and slip straight into the loud, packed hall. He chills at the counter, trying to stay totally invisible, but someone spots him instantly. Enter Rubble, 2-star adventurer radiating insane power, way stronger than anyone back home. Surprisingly though, she is completely chill and friendly. She is super fascinated by Isle's fancy glasses, a rare piece of advanced village tech that clearly stands out in this basic city. They strike a quick bargain. Info for info. He asks about Horn, but Ribble looks totally confused by the strange name. Suddenly, she stops and asks if he means the demonic saint. Turns out, in the massive capital, Horn is not just some weird country kid anymore. She is a famous powerhouse in Dawn Blackbird, a totally elite 3-star adventure squad. Now watch closely. Al refuses to believe his messy sister is some holy saint, but the crazy physical description matches perfectly. Before they can swap more secrets, some loudmouth dude named Galiv tries to completely crash their quiet chat. Isle, absolutely despising pointless drama, downs his soup and literally vanishes from the guild before Galiv can even blink. Searching for solid clues, Al quickly checks out a nearby weapon shop. He wants to inspect the local gear, but his real goal is definitely sniffing out the truth behind those wild rumors about his sister's legendary team. The moment he starts asking questions, a young red-haired girl inside the shop totally speaks up. She literally claims to be in Dawn Blackbird too. Isle is baffled. Unlike Ribble, this girl feels incredibly weak and completely defenseless. Just like an average villager, he genuinely cannot understand how a weak kid like her joined an elite squad. But he just shoves his burning curiosity completely aside. He ignores the squad's power level completely. He only wants to find Horn. Isle pushes on to find Horn. However, the fiery girl, Leia, reacts super suspiciously the moment he brings her up. Before they can dig deeper, the grumpy shopkeeper, a terrifying old dude who looks dangerously strong, barks at them to stop, causing a massive scene right away. He firmly tells Isle that Horn is out hunting wild monsters and will not return for 3 whole days. Since he only sells swords, the old man nicely points Isle toward Joseph's shop to grab a solid bow. I know what you are thinking. Isle buys a blade and bails, but Leia actually chases him into the loud streets. Isle tries to completely ignore her, but she is stubborn. He finally agrees to chat while walking to the shop. But nope, Isle uses his insane speed to pull a fast trick, completely ditching her and rushing to his inn. He downs some tasty duck pasta, planning to train hard. But the second he steps inside, he is totally trapped. Leia actually teamed up with Ral, that powerful blonde adventurer from before, and they are waiting. They march straight up to his quiet room to talk. Al spots a super weird floating number right above Raleigh's head. It just dropped from 52 to 31, leaving him completely baffled. Keeping his word, Isle hands Ribble some high-quality glasses, lying that they are just spares from a friend to hide his epic crafting. Ribble is totally blown away by the clarity, even letting Leia try them. Finally, the serious chat shifts toward Horn. Leia reveals she is actually a mage who joined Horn's famous Blackbird of Dawn squad after monsters destroyed her village. Turns out, Horn actually did something ridiculously reckless, but super noble. When Leia's broke village could not afford to hire heroes for a monster raid, Horn stepped up, promising to pay the massive fee herself if they attacked immediately. Because of this insane choice, Horn spent 2 whole years working off that heavy debt, stubbornly refusing any shiny reward money from the poor villagers. Isle sighs heavily, realizing his crazy sister has not changed. She is still the exact same stubborn, arrogant, and overly heroic goofball who would absolutely ruin herself to do good. Hearing all this leaves Isle feeling pure annoyance and pride. Feeling relieved that Horn is exactly the same goofy sister, Isle spends his first few days mastering his awesome new bow and limit testing his secretly overpowered magic glasses. He smartly joins the Hunter Guild instead of the flashy adventurers because it is super low-key. Plus, the lazy receptionist literally does not care at all, which suits Isle perfectly. While secretly training in the woods, Isle realizes his glasses are a total cheat code. Even in the pitch-black forest, he can see animal heat signatures glowing bright red, making it completely impossible for any poor prey to hide. He effortlessly snipes down a few wild birds and scores quick cash. So what do you and I make of this? He hides his overpowered dark vision, knowing it is way too dangerous. But days later, a royal soldier suddenly crashes right into his quiet inn. Alright, stick with me here. The king skipped making Isle a royal servant, but demanded 23 pairs of his magic glasses for the nobles. The palace guard told Isle to treat it like work. He offered to cover his inn fees, promising to return in exactly 5 days for the goods. Isle was totally relieved he avoided all that messy royal drama. However, being dragged all the way to the capital just to be treated like some random basic supplier, yeah, that definitely stung him a bit. Right after the guards left, Leia, that cheerful, red-haired adventurer from the Blackbird of Dawn, burst in. She caught wind of his amazing hunting streak and absolutely had to recruit him for a quest. Isle honestly tried his best to ignore her and kick her out, but Leia was stubbornly determined, practically pushing her way right inside his room. When he walked in, she was already sitting completely comfortable, right on his bed. Being smart, he purposely left the door wide open just in case she tried pulling a dramatic victim act to ruin his good reputation. He was definitely not thrilled about this uninvited visit, considering he wasn't an adventurer. He was just a regular guy registered with the hunting guild. Leia simply laughed, cheerfully explaining exactly how she tracked him, even though he kept things super quiet in the woods. Rumors were flying about a bespectacled hunter dragging in insane amounts of prey every single day. Folks totally believed he possessed true godlike skills, but he knew his special glasses did the work. Leia aggressively insisted that he join her for monster hunting. As a mage, she felt way too weak for her main squad and desperately needed someone to train with. He tried booting her out multiple times, but this energetic girl just would not budge an inch. She explained that mages are highly sought after and usually targeted by super creepy guys, so picking a random stranger was way too risky. She felt he was genuinely trustworthy. He finally caved, but firmly demanded 80% of the final reward. He also laid down the law no visiting the Adventurers Guild to sign official papers, because he absolutely hated drawing extra attention. Leia cheerfully agreed to handle all the paperwork while keeping his name hidden. They met up super early the next morning, before sunrise. Leia brought a short sword. She barely knew how to swing, meaning she was totally relying on flashy magic skills, flame ball and a wind blade technique called wind sky slash. Because they were heading south into the dense forest, fire magic was way too risky. Wind blade became their strategy. Hiking deeper into the beautiful woods, they spotted signs of their ultimate target, a red bear. These massive beasts are incredibly strong, with an insanely sharp sense of smell. He took the lead, carefully tracking broken grass and fresh claw marks until he spotted it. A massive, terrifying, dusty red beast appeared. He quickly pulled Leia right into the shadows, keeping her completely quiet. He whispered for Leia to retreat to a small clearing and hide up in a tree. His epic plan was to lure the giant bear there so she could blast it from high above. Once she was safely set, he aimed his bow. But you're gonna want to see this. As he stared, those weird floating numbers suddenly popped up again. Hovering over the bear's head, the number shifted from 11 to 5. He had no clue what that meant yet, but the showdown was starting. The red bear unleashed a deafening roar and charged with insane, terrifying power. Instead of running in a straight line, Ahiro dramatically zagged through trees. Breaking its charging momentum, he fired several basic wooden arrows just to annoy it, playing bait to drag the furious bear straight toward Leia in the open, sunny clearing. Leia unleashed her wind sky slash from the upper branches, but the invisible magical blade barely scratched its neck. Despite her endless barrage of flashy spells, the bear completely ignored her. It felt absolutely nothing. Her magic was basically just giving this giant monster a haircut. Our clever protagonist quickly realized Leia was totally unprepared for actual hardcore combat. She just kept blindly spamming spells from total safety, while he risked everything distracting the beast. Completely fed up with wasting time, he aggressively swapped to heavy iron arrows. Suddenly, the glowing number 3 floating above the bear spiked to 96. We both guessed it, those digits meant win probability. With iron arrows, his odds skyrocketed. He moved with flawless, absolute terrifying precision. The very first arrow shattered the bear's paw. The second struck its knee, completely destroying its balance. Then, the third slammed straight through its eye at point-blank range. The beast collapsed, and his win rate hit 100. During this wild clash, he finally realized his magical glasses displayed exact odds of victory. Leia had a 99 floating above her because she posed absolutely zero threat. Meanwhile, Rollable, that incredibly strong warrior he met earlier, had a much lower score. Afterwards, Leia tried acting super tough, but he was mostly just irritated that her chaotic magic attacks ended up ruining some valuable monster fur. He expertly dismantled the catch, securing the core and premium meat. He even whipped up a special poached dish his master taught him, leaving Leia totally amazed by the flavor. Arriving back at the bustling capital, they safely dropped their loot off. Leia proudly claimed full credit for the hunt since he really wanted a low profile. But trust me, you'll love this visiting the guild. He noticed the lazy receptionist sported a 3. This absolutely proves she is significantly stronger than Ral. Alright, stick with me here. He tries dodging her to avoid trouble, but fails. Next, he visits Joseph, a muscular, made-up bow shop owner who actually knew his master. Joseph is totally eccentric, but super skilled. Practicing with heavy iron arrows out back, Joseph casually drops that red bear hunt rumors are already flying everywhere. He points out the flawless fur without a single scratch. He totally knows the amateur story is fake, and our main guy is the real deal. Post-hunt, this sharp-eyed older guy with thick makeup starts actively digging for the real scoop. He accurately guesses Al dropped that massive beast using only 3 arrows. Honestly, proving Al is ridiculously way more skilled than he claims. Joseph plays nice, even tossing out a dinner invite. But something about this dude just feels suspicious. Al dodges the invite and heads to his inn. Boom! He bumps into Leia. He tries running, but she catches him and spills why she was searching. His wild sister, Horn, is finally back in town. She is at the Pact Adventure Guild right now. Avoiding the thirsty crowd, Al tells Leia to just bring Horn by the inn tomorrow afternoon instead. Now watch closely. When this reunion finally hits, it is pure chaos. Horn has not changed one bit. Messy brown hair, crazy wild energy, and rocking worn leather armor like a true veteran adventurer. She is so incredibly clueless. She totally misses that it is Al. Enter Lexan, their childhood buddy. He used to be the village tough guy until Horn wrecked him. Now, he is a massive rising star for the Blackbird of Dawn squad. Al literally has to take off his glasses before Horn finally recognizes her own brother. They hit up a diner where Lexan explains exactly how Horn got famous. Her crazy nickname? The Hunting Demon. Because she takes the hardest jobs for people in need, usually without even asking for a single penny. Lexan totally admits their Blackbird squad was stuck at a mid-rank before Horn joined. Her wild energy pushed them to a top-tier 3-star rank. But yeah, she is a complete financial disaster. She is drowning in debt from giving all her gold to orphanages or anyone with a sad story. Lexan laughs, saying the leader loves her debt because it stops her from quitting. Meanwhile, Horn cares way more about eating her goat stew. When Al brings up his own capital selection ritual, Horn just gives him a blank stare. She literally forgot. That was the entire reason she came to the city years ago. You felt that surprise too, right? Al reveals his secret magician talent, leaving them absolutely stunned. Classic Horn just shrugs it off and keeps eating her food, but honestly, Al did not care about becoming some super high-level magician anyway. He flat out told the castle officials his only skill was making glasses. Technically true, since he casually hid all his other insane powers. They let him go. He happily took the travel allowance, planning a fun sightseeing trip before heading back home. Serving royalty? No, thanks. He just wanted to check on his crazy sister and leave. Hanging with Horn and Lexan again, Al realizes his sister truly has not changed at all. She is still obsessed with eating rare mythical animals, bragging about tasting a golden raven and creatures normal people only read about. Al is honestly a little jealous. Coming from a super poor village, meat was a huge luxury. He basically became a hunter just so he could feast on meat more often. Meanwhile, Horn just followed her crazy instincts into danger to find the absolute best prey. Leia, the red-haired adventurer, is mind-blown that Horn found such rare beasts in just 2 years. But Horn's logic is hilarious. She just goes where nobody else dares. After playfully teasing him over his glasses, they part ways so she can go help some rookies with an exam. Next, Al asks Leia to take him straight to the Blackbird headquarters, his sister's elite top-tier adventuring squad. He desperately needs to apologize to their leader for whatever absolute chaos his sister definitely caused. Leia is super confused why Al did not just introduce himself as Horn's brother earlier. Al simply explains he totally wanted to avoid the crazy drama attached to her wild reputation. Arriving at the massive Blackbird warehouse base, Al meets the deputy leader, a sharp woman in her 20s, and a rugged veteran warrior. But when Al politely introduces himself as her brother, and apologizes, the entire room goes completely dead silent. Every single adventurer is stunned. They literally cannot believe this perfectly calm, polite guy is related to the chaotic Horn. They keep questioning if they are actually blood relatives, because their vibes are absolute, total polar opposites. Al politely explains that despite growing up in the exact same poor village. So what do you and I learn today? A good local mentor teaching basic common sense changes everything. Come along with me. The Blackbird Guild members sat absolutely frozen, finally meeting the family of the chaotic girl, giving them massive headaches for years. The giant bearded guy and the deputy leader immediately started grilling our boy about his actual hunting skills. Things got super awkward fast, and he totally avoided explaining his combat style, just as he desperately searched for an exit. A messy blonde named tumbled out of her room in just underwear, yawning loudly and hunting for snacks. Leia absolutely panicked, rushing to cover her up and creating a complete mess. This was his absolute, perfect chance to escape. He quickly jumped up, promised to return later when the actual leader was around, and then practically sprinted right out of their crazy base. He figured showing up empty-handed next time was a terrible idea, especially since his sister was a total menace to the team. He desperately needed a proper gift to apologize for all her endless trouble. He decided to hunt something flashy but manageable, a stingray, which is basically a massive, super aggressive rabbit packing gigantic fangs. Swinging by the hunting guild for tips, he randomly bumped into a sharp-looking older guy wearing a cool leather vest. The mysterious dude stayed completely silent and moved like an absolute pro in the empty hall. Once the veteran left, the receptionist handed over a map marking the exact rabbit territory, located deep inside the forest near a steep cliff. He immediately headed out, tracked the beast to its cave, and waited patiently upstairs. When the giant rabbit finally returned, he used a clever trick, tossing a stink bag to flush it out before firing a paralyzing arrow. He totally wanted to avoid ruining the precious gift, so taking it down cleanly with sleep powder worked absolutely perfectly. Securing his epic catch, he cleaned the massive prey by the river and started trekking back toward the city under the dark night sky. But on the walk back, his magic glasses started glitching. The lenses flickered like crazy stars, and his vision instantly shifted. Now, pay close attention here. He wasn't seeing the road anymore. Suddenly, he was watching a strange, upside-down live feed straight from someone else's perspective. It was like the enchanted lenses were forcing him to watch a live broadcast from somewhere else entirely. Using the flashing lights in his lenses like a magical compass, he left the main path. It guided him toward the eastern road. a fancy route used mostly by high-ranking nobles and wealthy merchants. As he finally approached the area, he spotted a broken wheel, completely abandoned. Glancing down a steep slope, he found a massive luxury carriage that had totally crashed off the road. It looked like an absolute disaster, and his glowing glasses were practically screaming at him to investigate. The terrible carriage crash left the entire vehicle completely wrecked. Flipping on his dark vision, Al quickly spotted two victims near the wreckage. One was tossed aside, while the second person was entirely trapped underneath. Al suddenly noticed a bizarre red light glowing down there. The magic glasses he originally crafted were flashing bright red. He discovered a young girl, right around his own age, crushed under the wreckage while wearing his custom invention. She was badly injured and barely holding on. When Al rushed over to help, she weakly pointed toward the dark woods, totally terrified for her missing escort. Deep inside the forest, a fierce female warrior named Rybel was desperately fighting off vicious wolves. Rybel dashed over, super suspicious of Al at first, but she quickly recognized his face from the Adventurer Guild. "You and I both know he's strong," but Al played it cool, claiming he was just passing through. Seeing the severe injuries, he offered a quick tactical swap. He'd take out the wolf pack so Rybel could rescue the victims. Wolves are clever pack hunters, but they were completely outmatched by Al's legendary bow skills. After he easily dropped 3 of them, the rest panicked and scattered into the night. He quickly collected the valuable wolf materials for cash and checked on Rybel. She successfully moved the victims safely to the road, confirming they'd pull through. Once backup finally arrived from the capital, Al decided to quietly vanish. He definitely wanted zero drama with high society nobles, and honestly, he just wanted to grab that super rare giant rabbit he hunted earlier. But the very next morning, Rybel tracked Al down anyway. She revealed the rescued girl was actually from the ultra-powerful Levant family, and they demanded to thank him. Al tried dodging the fancy invitation, but Rybel simply wouldn't quit. She clearly warned him that those nobles were highly suspicious about him magically appearing at the exact, perfect moment. Plus, she dropped a bombshell some family members could literally detect lies, so he needed absolute honesty. Realizing that running away would only make him look guilty, Al reluctantly agreed to the meeting. But first, he had to finish his original mission, visiting his wild sister Horn at the Blackbird of Dawn Guild. So what do you and I take from this? Pure chaos always wins. He brought that legendary giant rabbit for the guild leader, but before he could even speak, Horn completely snatched it and bolted. He was left standing incredibly awkwardly in front of 10 totally confused elite adventurers. Al simply cleared his throat, completely played it cool, and introduced himself, politely explaining he just wanted to thank them for tolerating his crazy sister. So there was Al, right inside the Blackbird of Dawn headquarters, trying to check on his sister, Horn. Before he could even get a proper greeting out, "Stick with me," watch this wild girl scream for a blade before sprinting off again. The massive, tough-looking leader named Rickstein seemed clearly annoyed by her wild behavior. Feeling completely awkward, Al quickly stepped up to apologize for his sister's chaos. But Rickstein warmly welcomed him anyway, calling him family through Horn. Al chatted with the other members for a bit, quickly realizing that despite her being a complete headache, this group actually really liked Horn. They treated her like a troublesome but beloved pet. He then met a woman named Ein, who seemed incredibly close to his sister. But Ein had to run off too, since Horn was trying to eat raw meat again. Seeing this incredibly strong guild, Al felt super relieved knowing his wild sister was in great hands. Not wanting to overstay his welcome, he quickly made up an excuse about a meeting and headed straight out. Outside, Ral was patiently waiting. He was that blonde guy working for the nobles Al helped the night before. Ral casually mentioned that the powerful count wanted to see him. Al was not thrilled at all. Dealing with nobility usually meant endless trouble or annoying rules. But he had zero choice. Heading to the giant mansion, Al suddenly realized he had one secret advantage: his glasses. He realized he could technically look through any glasses he crafted. This meant he could easily spy on the absolute most powerful people in the entire country, if he wanted to. That wild thought absolutely terrified him. If anyone discovered this, his normal life was over. He firmly decided to rush through this meeting and hurry back to his peaceful village as soon as possible. They finally arrived at the Levent Mansion, an absolutely massive estate. Raoul dropped him at the front gate, leaving Al completely alone with the head butler. The exact moment Al looked at this old man, his survival instincts went crazy. Watch closely here. That polite grandpa? Al knew this guy was an absolute monster who could easily take him out in a single second. Walking inside, he felt hidden experts watching him from every single dark corner. This fancy mansion was honestly just one massive, inescapable danger zone. Suddenly, that heavy tension vanished when a cheerful young blonde girl ran up to greet him. It was the very same girl he saved from the carriage. She was super energetic, happily thanking him for saving her and mentioning that healing magic had fixed everything. Before Al could even process this, he was escorted into a fancy reception room. While waiting for the count, an old maid brought out tea. Just like the butler, this maid gave off a terrifying energy that made his skin absolutely crawl. Even the count's own daughter sat there shaking in fear. Al just sat there sipping his tea, quickly realizing he had walked straight into a house full of absolute monsters. He got this terrible feeling that simply going home would be way harder than he ever imagined. Glancing down at his tea, Al suddenly noticed a really strange smell. He instantly realized it was completely spiked with paralysis poison. Knowing it would freeze his body, he didn't drink. But the girl next to him, Cellier, actually took a sip and immediately felt her entire tongue go completely numb. Al thought it was totally insane for a noble girl to be poisoned at home, but he just figured this was some extreme high society way of raising tough kids. Suddenly, an imposing old gentleman named Wise Levent, the head of the house, walked in. He calmly sat down, openly admitting he was testing Al to see if he was a good fit. Wise was super impressed that Al didn't even flinch at the intimidation or the poison, proving his perfect poker face and incredibly sharp judgment. Then things got seriously weird. Wise looked over at Cellier and told her to call him father, revealing they weren't even related yet. "You and I both saw that coming, right?" Cellier boldly declared she was ready to become his shadow operative. Al tried leaving, but those two ancient guards instantly blocked his path. They were so incredibly fast and quiet that Al didn't even hear them move. He quickly realized escaping was impossible, even using Cellier as leverage, because these terrifying old masters could read his every single thought before he even twitched a muscle. Wise finally explained that they actually run a secret underground operative school, but the profession is totally dying out because the world has stayed peaceful for way too long. They hardly ever eliminate targets much anymore. Nowadays, they mostly handle entirely clean jobs like gathering critical intel or flawlessly capturing targets. Wise refused to let their legendary techniques disappear with his generation, so he formally invited Al to join the school. Al was seriously hesitant. He respectfully told Wise his own master trained him as a hunter, not a hitman, and he refused to disrespect that training. Wise simply countered, saying it was too late to train Al as a true assassin anyway, since that path takes an entire lifetime. Instead, he wanted Al to learn these rare skills and use them creatively, basically becoming a highly diverse specialist. Al finally started seeing the connection. Just like the hunter profession was being replaced by random adventurers, the elite assassin trade was completely fading away. He felt a little sympathy, knowing exactly how it hurts to see a craft you truly love slowly disappear. Wise promised that Al wouldn't be forced to eliminate anyone, and that these elite skills would only make him much stronger. Seeing absolutely zero real downside, plus gaining rare combat techniques for free, Al finally sat back down to carefully listen to all the remaining details. "So where does that leave us?" Al asked the family head if he could go home eventually. The answer was simple: let's dive into an epic journey. Covert agents weren't super popular lately, mostly just doing bodyguard gigs, gathering intel, or taking down nasty demons. The training academy was a quick one-year program. The boss really wanted A to master these epic techniques and become absolutely unstoppable. Right before heading out, A grabbed an official guild recommendation letter. To join, he needed to visit a super specific spot. Next day, A hit the hunting guild, tossing his letter to a super lazy receptionist. Boom! In a flash, that guy's bored energy turned incredibly intense. He officially welcomed A to the Shadowlands. Soon after, our boy was squeezed into a tiny carriage heading toward the academy. He definitely wasn't alone. Enter Sash, a loud, blue-haired dude with total street punk energy. Then there's Florentine, 14-year-old girl with silver hair and ruby eyes, known as a taboo child, and Seer, a sweet blonde noble battling horrible motion sickness. Honestly, this quirky crew did not click at all. Super awkward vibes. By day 4, they finally found a groove, camping out under the stars every single night, while Sash cooked. Florentine handled heavy lifting like moving water, and Seer used sweet healing magic for their aches and dizzy spells. A was their star hunter, using epic dark vision from his special glasses. He snagged birds and a plump rabbit for an awesome meal, melting the awkward tension between everyone. Fast forward to day 6. The endless bumpy ride was driving this whole crew insane. Sash practically begged A for a joke, but A's hilarious teasing about Sash and Florentine nearly sparked a massive roadside brawl. Even quiet, dizzy Seer actually chimed in, groaning that she was super bored too. Pay attention here, this is crucial. Knowing they'd be stuck together, A totally broke the ice, asking Florentine about her taboo status. He made it perfectly clear, zero judgment, completely ignoring silly old superstitions. He was just genuinely curious. Sensing his honesty, Florentine agreed to talk. The tired crew hated that extremely bumpy carriage ride. Rolling along, shared a super sweet chat with Florentine, the silver-haired, ruby-eyed girl unfairly labeled as a taboo child. Most folks unfairly feared her kind, but it quickly realized she was just a cheerful, normal girl who seriously loved eating meat. Honestly, compared to A's wild sister who casually ate toxic mushrooms for immunity, Florentine was the most normal person ever. On day 8, the old carriage driver happily announced they would finally arrive right before sunset. Over their final lunch, he dropped a massive bombshell. The academy provided them with absolutely nothing. No food, no furniture, zero shops. They must be entirely self-sufficient. You and I both know the drill. Lesson 1 for shadow agents. Survive totally off the grid without relying on comfy inns. Hearing that, A instantly grabbed Florentine for a wild hunt. Together, they spectacularly took down a giant boar, securing tasty meals for days. Mid-hunt, Florentine happily revealed she used special body-boosting magic that totally explained her absolutely insane, mind-blowing physical strength. They made an awesome team deal. It would hunt big monsters, and Florentine would casually carry the heavy catches right back. Right at sunset, they finally arrived. But wow, this wasn't some grand, glorious academy. It was just a quiet, run-down little village. Looked like a boring farm town, right? But A's sharp eyes instantly spotted hidden weapons everywhere. Gleaming knives jammed in walls and needles lining fences. The driver smirked. Every villager here was a retired top-tier agent. The rules? Super simple. Stay 1 year, do whatever, and learn if you want. Before letting them unpack, the guide asked what they each truly wanted from this mysterious village. Loudmouth Sash, always hunting for easy power, boldly shouted he wanted enough strength to completely obliterate high-level demons. Sweet Seer, the noble girl who battled dizzy spells all trip, quietly wanted to learn amazing skills to support her dad. Florentine wasn't completely sure, but wanted enough strength to survive. When A's turn arrived, he kept it super simple. He wasn't interested in becoming a professional agent, but he definitely knew he needed to get way stronger. After witnessing those legendary fighters back in the capital, A realized his current power was way too low to safely protect his precious home. He wanted to absorb absolutely every bit of secret knowledge this delightfully strange village could offer. The old guy led them to a freezing, 2-story wooden shack, just empty rooms split by flimsy boards. Seriously, 0 beds, no kitchen, absolutely no cozy comforts anywhere. Too tired to complain, everyone quickly picked a floor spot and instantly collapsed. Their wild life at the Shadow Academy had officially kicked off, starting with a freezing night on solid wood. So what do you and I make of this? Once settled, life became pure survival. A roof, but absolutely zero food, comfy luxuries, or gentle handholding. Next morning, I woke up totally sore from that rock-hard floor. But stepping outside, the village looked surprisingly bright and normal. Friendly folks were farming, casually doing laundry, and cheerful kids were playing. Stick with me, you and I are exploring a wild town. Even with the small blacksmith shop, it is actually a legendary elite assassin hideout. Al quickly realized there was absolutely no rush to start training. Staying safe was priority number one. Without food or a decent bed, learning shadow skills meant nothing. While exploring around, Al casually spotted an old guy sitting quietly in a wooden chair. Despite looking like a frail, bald grandpa, Al's instincts screamed danger. A quick look through special glasses showed the old man's power level perfectly at 0. Usually, that means someone is weak. But here, it meant he could completely hide his wild aura. Another local guy, an old dude who arrived with Al earlier, totally confirmed the suspicion that Grandpa was once history's greatest shadow master, rumored to have easily taken down an epic dragon. The guy asked if Al was going hunting, heavily warning that these local monsters were absolutely brutal. He handed over a cool monster guidebook, packed with tips on which ones were safe to eat and cook. However, absolutely nothing comes for free around here. Al happily traded yesterday's wild boar meat and rough leather for the book. Back at the dorm, Al bumped into two cheerful girls, Chelier and Florentine. They were playfully petting a white spotted cat the size of a huge dog. An absolute beast, flashing bright green eyes. Despite looking like a fierce predator, it seemed super calm. Al cheerfully cooked up a hot breakfast, sharing tasty meat with the girls and that giant cat. After eating, Al spent some quiet time studying that guidebook. It was super clear many students used this book before. Certain worn-out pages were completely smudged, mostly showing the wildest monsters living right near the village. By noon, Al bravely headed into the mountains. The area was crawling with monsters, but they totally avoided the village, clearly sensing those incredibly dangerous people inside. This made hunting normal animals completely impossible, since the fierce monsters scared them away. Now pay attention here. Al's special glasses proved these massive beasts were way too incredibly strong to ever fight head-on. Realizing a direct clash wouldn't work, Al smartly decided to use big brain tactics. The brilliant plan? Find a toxin expert. After asking around, Al discovered a hidden pharmacist shop. The owner was a super grumpy old woman dressed exactly like a classic witch in a dark room, totally setting the mood for business. She was highly cynical and ignored names entirely, safely assuming most eager newcomers wouldn't even last a single year. Al firmly asked for a paralysis toxin strong enough to drop a monster. The old lady was honestly impressed a kid like Al knew about local threats. She happily agreed to hand over a crazy powerful liquid toxin that paralyzed any target in 3 seconds. But there was a huge catch. Al had to bring back a successful hunt as payment. If Al completely failed, the deal was off forever. Toxin in hand, Al learned these monsters are extra tough because of a hidden core near their heart, giving them absolutely insane, boundless energy. Now, it was time to head back, study the guide closely, and fully prepare for a totally high-stakes hunt tomorrow. Survival in this shadowy, hidden village was officially getting super real. You saw this coming, right? In this world, a core separates monsters from animals. This shiny core gives them crazy fast healing, toxin immunity, and absolute super strength. As long as that core stays inside them, their bodies never rot or get stiff after they fall, keeping the rare meat amazingly fresh. A bigger core usually creates a wildly stronger monster. Even a small girl like Florentine is an absolute powerhouse because she uses magic to hugely boost her stats. Our hero easily found Florentine sitting outside the sunny dorms alongside her giant cat, which is definitely too huge to be normal. She was busy carving rough wood into a weird, spooky doll. She clearly explained she wasn't doing this for fun. She was practicing fine motor skills, since she usually only uses her power in giant, messy bursts. While they cheerfully talked, Chelier walked by, looking completely exhausted. She had been intensely training magic until nearly collapsing, which was her strict teacher's crazy way of building strength. Al decided to get straight to work, kindly asking Chelier to read some documents aloud, since reading wasn't his strong suit. These papers acted like a brilliant hunter's guide, showing exactly where monster hearts are and which shiny parts sell highest. After smartly studying tricky creature weak spots, our hero went out to hunt a legendary sky lizard. This huge thing is a total nightmare. It perfectly turns invisible and blends into the wild environment, making it a terrifying hunter. Using those special glasses, Al instantly spotted the massive lizard hiding up a tree. One quick toxin arrow later, it crashed heavily onto the forest floor. Even though it stayed totally invisible, Al could easily see bright red drops falling, and that arrow shaking right in midair. He bravely rushed in with the hunting knife to finish it, but the beast's scaly skin was so incredibly tough. His blade snapped right off. Thinking super fast, he whipped out his bow and unleashed 3 rapid shots straight into its head. At point-blank range, the lizard finally dropped, it becoming fully visible again and revealing a massive yellowish body. Al absolutely knew he had to move fast before the battle sense attracted other beasts. So what do we take from this? He slung the huge lizard over his shoulder and sprinted back, expertly dodging other fierce predators along the way. He finally made it back. You and I know he needs a massive power-up if he wants to survive these insane mountains. For the long haul, the hunt was a success, but the vibe, totally off. Lugging that massive lizard back to camp, everyone else's first reaction was absolute, pure disgust. To be completely fair, the beast looked super bizarre. It had tough scales, weirdly short hairs, and a glowing bald spot right on top. Even sweet little Syria couldn't hide her absolute shock when she spotted the thing while prepping their morning breakfast. Brushing off their complaints, his main goal was breaking the lizard down. Since his hunting blade was lost, he desperately needed a replacement. Asking around the camp didn't help at all. Nobody had a spare, or they simply refused to ruin a kitchen knife on this messy chore. Then Florentine strolled in with her cat. She acted totally shocked about the lizard hunt, though she quickly admitted they tasted absolutely amazing. Plus, the leather and that glowing magic core inside are worth a fortune. Pay attention here, because these sky lizards are an absolute nightmare to hunt. They turn totally transparent, zooming through trees faster than you can blink. The only reason he pulled this off was thanks to those special glasses. Without that gear, tracking down an invisible beast hiding like a silent shadow would be totally impossible. It honestly didn't feel like a true skill-based victory, which stung a bit. While Florentine and her kitty eagerly waited for snacks, he decided it was time to find a real pro. His search led straight to a rugged blacksmith shop on the village edge. Heavy hammer strikes echoed everywhere, while outside the shop, a guy named Sash was sitting there looking incredibly drained and totally annoyed. He had been camping out since yesterday, desperately begging the master blacksmith to forge him a brand new weapon. But the blacksmith, a towering guy who looked surprisingly young despite his super grumpy attitude, absolutely refused. He finally paused his intense work, loudly shouting at everyone to just pipe down while he was busy forging. Spotting the lizard changed his mind. The blacksmith agreed to help dismantle it and promised a blade, but only after finishing his current epic project. This left plenty of time to chat with Sash. Sash desperately wanted elite gear, believing it would instantly make him a top-tier hunter, but he kept getting rejected. When he demanded a reason, the harsh truth dropped. He was just too incredibly weak. Giving an overpowered weapon to someone who cannot even survive the basics is just a total one-way ticket to disaster. To prove his point, the massive blacksmith challenged Sash to land just one strike with a wooden sword. Sash actually possessed a rare skill called Fast Boot, letting him dash at absolutely insane speeds across short distances. He lunged forward, moving faster than the eye could track, but the blacksmith didn't even blink. He effortlessly tripped Sash and disarmed him in a flash. Out here, even the local blacksmith operates on a completely different power tier. Totally embarrassed, Sash kicked the guy's backside and sprinted away using his speed skill. With him finally gone, the blacksmith actually got down to business. I know what you're thinking, but he admitted, he's only in his 20s. As the dismantling lesson began, news of the epic lizard hunt quickly reached the village's hidden masters. Over in a nearby stable, a guy named Fog Horse was approached by another absolute powerhouse called Iron Bull. They were intensely discussing our new rookie with the glasses. Normally, a rookie bagging a mountain demon is nothing special, but taking down a sky lizard changes the game. That is a seriously high-level achievement. Soon, a third powerhouse joined the chat. An old woman wearing black robes, secretly a legendary stunner known as the Poisonous Lady. She was the one teaching him how to dismantle his catch. These guys weren't just your average villagers. They were world-class fighters, concealing their true identities behind magical disguises. They were all watching the kid like hawks, realizing his arrival was stirring up massive waves in this quiet village way faster than they ever anticipated. The next morning, village leaders met to discuss a major emergency. Village head Misty Horse, alongside specialists Iron Bull and Poison Bull, were totally shocked by a crazy report. A student named the Glasses Lad had already returned from the mountains holding the head of an empty lizard. This was an absolutely massive deal, because hunting an empty lizard is usually the ultimate graduation exam for an assassin. These beasts are insanely fast, perfectly camouflaged, and incredibly elusive. Yet, this crazy kid finished the insane task before classes even officially started. Misty Horse then revealed the boy wasn't even supposed to be there. He was personally recommended by Weiss Levent, the legendary leader of the kingdom's elite assassins. This put the instructors in a seriously tough spot. If they handed him the standard graduation test in 6 months like everyone else, it would literally look like a complete joke. But making his test way harder could leave the other students feeling insulted or failing entirely. For now, the leaders just decided to pause the whole issue while they tried figuring out how to handle such an absolute monster talent. We're leaving it here. Meanwhile, he was just relaxing with his roommates, Cellier the Mage, and Florentine, that strange girl carving creepy statues. Stick with me here. We open with them feasting on lizard meat, surprisingly delicious and fat, like premium poultry. While chewing, their chat naturally shifted right toward their future village plans. Florentine was happily carving a cute doll, but honestly, it looked like some terrifying multi-armed monster from the deep abyss. Our boy decided to track down a local hunter for new skills, but Cellier, totally different priority. She just really wanted a bath. Here, hitting the communal bath meant paying a fee, or doing chores every single time you washed up. Cellier, an absolute magic genius, pitched a brilliant plan. She would use her talent for permanent magic circles to craft a self-heating tub. She tasked our guy to negotiate with the local blacksmith to build an iron tub. She promised to enchant it against rust and forge magic stones, keeping that water perfectly warm without needing any fire. He took the deal, agreeing to fully manage the bath and keep it perfectly ready. He also took over finding food for Cellier every day. A total win for both. She skipped the harsh survival training, and he scored a private magical hot bath on demand. With this alliance locked in, they set out to make their stay in this assassin village a whole lot more relaxing and comfortable. After settling into the village, their next massive goal was super simple: a private bath. You know how it is. Using communal village baths meant dodging creepy guys like Joseph. An absolute hard pass. Cellier, the squad's mage, was the ultimate key here. Despite their limited time, scoring a perfectly warm bath whenever needed was a luxury totally worth the hustle. But the reality of actual magic? Way less glamorous than the cool fairy tales. Instead of flashy, instant miracles, it was purely exhausting work. Cellier spent 3 full days painting a magic formation on a massive iron plate to stop rust. Completely. Not with real paint, but by directly stamping invisible magical energy right onto the metal. The whole process left Cellier looking absolutely drained, like a completely empty battery. Meanwhile, a giant cat nearby just sat there watching with total annoyance. While Cellier pushed through the magic, the heavy groundwork was laid. They struck a deal with the local blacksmith, trading fresh hunted lizard meat for a solid water tank and that iron plate. Over the last few days, his reputation as the ultimate meat supplier grew among village kids. Even Florentine, the girl constantly carving that incredibly creepy evil god statue, actually started looking at him with respect. Speaking of Florentine, she noticed Sash, the super aggressive hothead from their squad, had been off in the distance for days, just obsessively swinging a wooden stick around. He was pushing himself until he collapsed, his hands battered and his swings fueled by pure, raw anger. Florentine honestly felt bad here. Despite his awful attitude, they had journeyed and eaten together, so she hated seeing him break down. Getting close to Sash required seriously thick skin. After dropping casual insults just to grab his attention, the real truth came out. Sash was working insanely hard, but doing it completely wrong. I know what you are thinking. A sword, right? Nope, he had zero talent there. His actual strength was pure speed and straight line momentum. Basically, he was built for a spear, definitely not a sword. Using a blade just ruined all his incredible speed right before the heavy impact. The advice was brutally simple. Stop wasting time on swords and grab a weapon that actually fits. Sash was totally stunned, his fierce anger replaced by realizing he was fighting his own true nature. After a super blunt chat about efficiency and natural talent, the awkward tension finally started melting away. Back at their campsite, Sash finally admitted he was starving. Solo training ruined his eating habits lately. Even Florentine, who already ate, kept hovering around the campfire, secretly hoping for some tasty lizard snacks. Despite all the constant bickering and weird squad dynamics, they all ended up gathered around the fire. The tub was coming along, the meat was sizzling, and suddenly, their journey's heavy stress felt miles away. Sash finally paused, cutting the food, and looked right at Florentine. He actually called her by her real name for the first time, completely catching her off guard. Florentine, the proud daughter of a powerful boss, acted totally disgusted and demanded why he was acting friendly. She reminded him she was basically royalty, while he was just a chimp. Sash got super annoyed, yelling he was not flirting, while Al jumped in to calm things. Al reassured Sash that even without a single ounce of sword talent, he will find someone who truly likes him someday. Sash immediately snapped back, telling Al to quit playing mentor when his own body was always battered. So, Al decided to drop some actual real advice. He explained that swinging a normal weapon is totally useless if it lacks the perfect heavy weight. He strongly suggested Sash visit the local blacksmith, that bald old man seeing his true potential, to request a super heavy practice weapon. Sash hesitated, fearing rejection, but Al pushed him. Trust me, we need to see what is next. Come along with me. Al just wanted Sash busy training so they could all get some much needed personal space. By evening, Sash was already out there, swinging a heavy iron practice spear that the local blacksmith had custom made. He was super hyped. He told Al that the old men finally finished their custom hot tub. Absolute game changer. Chelier, their resident magic genius, rushed a special spell to keep the bath sparkling clean. But the very next morning, it started absolutely pouring heavy rain. Our squad of 4, Al, Sash, Florentine, and Chelier huddled at the dorm entrance. They realized they were in massive trouble. They usually cook outside, and the dorm didn't even have a kitchen. Florentine was starving, and Chelier felt completely heartbroken because the heavy rain ruined their new bathroom building plans. Even Sash couldn't train today. Al quickly realized that without a kitchen or bathroom, life in this village would be an absolute mess every rainy day. Al decided to bravely venture out and find a borrowable kitchen. Sash and Florentine tried stopping him, but our guy Al was totally determined. Before leaving, Chelier handed him a special stone glowing with a rain shelter magic circle. It acted just like an invisible umbrella, bouncing the raindrops away. Not entirely perfect, but still incredibly cool. Sash wisely pointed out that they really needed to build a proper shed and kitchen, avoiding getting stuck like this ever again. They eventually ended up at the blacksmith's house, cooked their meat inside his stable, then headed back to plan. Al smartly suggested asking the village magician for building material help. Chelier shyly admitted she could create materials using earth magic, though they wouldn't last forever. While comfortably waiting out the heavy rain, Al eagerly asked Chelier to teach him magic. He was genuinely impressed by her skills. They spent the entire day relaxing in their cramped room alongside a giant, friendly stray cat. Next day, the heavy rain vanished. The village magician happily agreed to treat their building wood, but only if Al traded her some lizard meat. The blacksmith agreed to design their new kitchen in exchange for rabbit meat. Within 2 short days, they finally completed the kitchen and bath. But right as comfort peaked, the village elders dropped an absolute bombshell. Al actually had to leave the village. Before departing, his friends shared sweet parting gifts. Sash handed him some wildly spicy, probably expired seasoning. Meanwhile, Florentine gifted a hilarious but incredibly creepy-looking little evil god statue she carved herself. Chelier sweetly gave him her personal protective amulet, a neat wooden pendant her dad made to block attacks. Feeling wonderfully awkward but grateful, Al took the sweet gifts and prepared to leave. Now watch closely. The night before leaving, Al was chilling in the bath when a mysterious old assassin appeared from thin air. He moved so incredibly silently that even Al's hyper-trained senses missed him completely. The old man calmly told Al to follow. They secretly went to a quiet house where that giant cat rested. Big reveal time. It wasn't a cat at all, but a fierce monster called a desert leopard, bound by a secret contract with the villagers. The old man sat Al down, finally explaining the real reason for his sudden departure. It wasn't some permanent exile, just a temporary shift. Why? Because Al was honestly way too amazing at surviving. Normally, new academy students struggle hard, learning pure independence through intense hunger and sheer desperation. But since Al was a legendary hunter, providing endless food, the others were getting way too comfortable and completely dependent on his awesome skills. To ensure his friends actually learned proper assassin survival skills, Al simply had to be completely removed from the picture. Plus, Al started hunting high-level mountain beasts ridiculously early, completely messing up the entire village's carefully planned training balance. You and I know he's awesome, but his massive talent was actually holding the other students back. Since he was already an insanely experienced hunter, everyone relied on him way too much instead of growing their own strengths. To fix this issue, the elders sent him packing. He told Al to travel toward Heidega City, track down the local assassin alliance, and find himself a brand new, top-tier mentor. The brilliant plan? Let his 3 friends learn true survival on their own, while our main character leveled up his awesome skills entirely elsewhere. The very next morning, he told the squad he was leaving for family reasons and headed out. Back in the quiet village, things started shifting almost instantly. Sash, the blue-haired guy, actually managed to hunt his very first bird. Sure, it was just one tiny bird, and he wasn't perfectly thrilled, but progress is absolutely still progress. The trainers were genuinely impressed. Catching a lightning-fast bird using just a heavy practice spear on day 1 is absolutely huge. Meanwhile, village leaders intensely discuss taboos. Special folks born with insanely rare hidden talents. Most folks think these individuals bring bad luck, but they actually hold absolutely massive potential. They strongly suspect our boy possesses a second hidden power. We're talking a ruling class talent so wonderfully epic that world leaders would fight for it. For now, they wisely chose to silently watch him from afar. After 3 long, exhausting travel days, our hero finally arrived right near the grand city of Heidega. Exhausted, he paused for soup. Trust me, we're just starting. He stared at a seasoning bottle Sash gifted him, but it's absolutely vile. Rotten stench was so incredibly disgusting, he just could not bring himself to taste it. Not wanting to perish from nasty food poisoning, he buried that foul liquid deep in the dirt. Then, he pulled out an incredibly eerie, sinister statue another buddy had carved. Stick with me here, because even though it looked totally cursed, he kept it, knowing exactly how much absolute heart went into making it. Right as he went for his plain soup, he instantly sensed real trouble. Activating dark vision, he spotted 3 helpless travelers sprinting through the dark woods, chased by one absolutely massive beast. They screamed wildly for backup. Knowing jumping into an adventurer clash was insanely risky, he still absolutely refused to just sit around and watch. He inhaled his meal, grabbed his trusty bow, and prepped that paralysis poison. Eliminating a beast that gigantic alone was highly unlikely, but he figured he could boldly distract the raging monster just long enough for those terrified travelers to safely escape. He sprinted toward those echoing screams, fully ready for anything. Our guy boldly steps up, helping 3 terrified adventurers currently being chased by a massive monster. He immediately orders them to keep running while he distracts it. Now pay attention, watch this. This monster is huge, twice his height, built like a massive tank, covered in thick monkey hair, sporting a horned cow head. It is a miner, a wild mountain beast looking way more terrifying than any textbook drawing. Knowing a fair brawl is absolutely pointless, he totally uses his brain. He quickly sets up a simple, sneaky trap by tying ropes tightly between trees. The heavy monster stomps forward, tripping and faceplanting incredibly hard. Our guy doesn't waste a single second. Rushing in, he surprisingly notices the massive creature's eyes are actually super calm, just like a peaceful cow. Still, a job is a job. He fires 3 swift arrows. Eye hit, cheek hit, third blocked. Before that beast can even stand up, he he strategically drops a loud distraction device, completely tricking the confused monster into furiously chasing fake noises straight uphill toward the mountain. With the threat handled, he quietly slips away, heading straight toward busy Hidega City. Reaching the massive city gates, he easily spots those 3 saved adventurers. They are totally panicking, begging guards to rescue their mysterious savior. Absolutely. Dodging any spotlight, our guy just casually strolls up, flashes his official hunting guild card, and completely plays dumb, acting like he saw nothing. He totally lies, claiming he only heard strange noises and bolted because he was scared. The guards let him pass easily. Totally exhausted from the journey, he grabs a cheap inn, skips dinner, and crashes. Next morning, he explores. Hidega is absolutely packed with adventurers and feels super alive. Though honestly, all the endless noise and bustling crowds quickly start annoying him. He stops at a lively food stall to devour a local specialty meat roll. Mid-bite, he overhears some tough guy bragging to a shopgirl about how he single-handedly finished off that miner earlier that morning. He realizes this random adventurer is totally stealing credit for his hard work. But whatever, he doesn't care. He is just here for meat. His real main goal? Finding the local hunting guild branch, which basically serves as a perfect front for the underground assassin network. You expected a cool guild, right? Nope. He discovers it actually went completely bankrupt, recently replaced by a fancy public bathhouse. He decides to take a relaxing bath and grab delicious food while he thinks, demolishing a tasty meal of baked duck and sweet fruit gelato. He slowly realizes his old master back at the village was completely out of the loop. The hunting guild cover vanished, but those elite assassins definitely still exist under another name. Without official government work anymore, they must be completely operating from the deep, hidden shadows now. To find them, he urgently needs an informant knowing all the city's dirty secrets. He marches right into the slums, where folks are either completely broken or hiding insane extreme strength. He spots a guy lying on a filthy rug, looking exactly like a beggar, but feeling super dangerous. The man smirks, noticing him, and asks what a kid is doing in a rough place like this. This is exactly the kind of dangerous guy, knowing where those hidden secrets truly lie. Il studied the old man sitting on that rug. He looked just like a thin, tired innkeeper, but something felt completely off. His presence was super intense, and for one split second, he looked ready to strike. Moving with insane speed, he proved he was vastly stronger than he appeared. This old man named Zant was absolutely hardcore underworld material. Il wisely decided to be totally direct. He desperately needed an informant, asking if Zant was one. Zant played hard to get initially, but when Il finally turned to leave, the old man quickly stopped him. Zant explained he was not an informant himself, but he totally knew the right people. He warned Il that information in the deep underworld is incredibly expensive. But Il had a brilliant plan. He specifically asked about a hunting guild official from 10 years ago, hoping to find a solid lead through someone living a normal life. Now, Zant agreed to look into it, telling Il to meet tomorrow morning. Hold up, please smash like and subscribe for more hidden manga gems. Now, I really double dare you. I am absolutely loving it. I bet most of you won't do it. Let us continue. The very next day, after enjoying a quick meat roll snack, Il confidently hit the meeting spot. But instead of Zant, he found a skinny girl rocking bright red hair and major attitude. Trust me on this. Named Liz, she was extremely rude and aggressive, but ready to take Il to his contact. Let's dive in. She led him on a wild chase across narrow rooftops, finally hitting a cluttered shop. Inside, they slipped past a hidden door behind a shelf, stepping down into an underground basement. This room was a secret base, featuring a massive kingdom map right on the wall. Zant was waiting there, looking totally refreshed, alongside two strangers. A chill blonde adventurer named Rhoda, plus a very creepy ghostly woman constantly muttering under her long hair. Rhoda confidently explained, he was the boss here. He revealed Zant actually used to be a hunting alliance member, but now, he just watched over the city's slum areas. Il also learned Liz was a new shadow operative candidate, exactly like him. Liz was definitely not happy. She totally looked down on Il, calling him an amateur, loudly questioning why he even got the same training. Rhoda ignored her complaints, simply stating he was following village orders. He then told Ale that he would officially be training directly under them for quite a while. To protect their cover, they had to act like complete strangers if they ever crossed paths in public. Before heading out, Rhoda put Zant in charge of training. Zant immediately led Ale to a nearby house. This was a secure, safe house where Liz already lived, and now Ale had to move in too. Ale felt super nervous about living with a girl. Honestly, bad past experiences with his sister taught him to never, ever let his guard down. Around mysterious women, Zant easily laughed it off, but Ale remained seriously concerned. Zant told them to figure out food and rules entirely by themselves, officially kicking off Ale's new life and intense city training. Later, Zant took the boy to a secret training facility, perfectly hidden beneath a normal public bathhouse. Inside that massive stone room, the boy spotted weird equipment. Wooden combat dolls marked with red targets and worn pads. Watch closely, this place was designed strictly to teach them ultimate takedowns. Zant introduced an epic training course called The Way. It featured a long stone tunnel packed with crazy obstacles like wooden poles, hanging ropes, and heavily embedded wall stones. The ultimate goal was reaching the end without ever letting your feet touch the floor. Zant demonstrated by dashing across the poles, light as a feather. He moved way faster than a beast and stayed completely quieter than a bird. Seeing this absolute speed, Ale realized how much he needed to learn. He felt huge excitement to finally begin his real training as a shadow agent. Over the next 3 days, Ale trained hard alongside Liz, the girl who was his rival shadow operative. They were surprisingly evenly matched, both desperately struggling to find perfect speed and solid balance on the narrow poles. Zant acted as their harsh instructor, pushing them extremely hard. He swore they couldn't advance until they completely mastered this tough course. During a quick break, they actually chatted casually. Liz was super curious about his past, but Ale kept things extremely simple, just mentioning his old hunter background. But when she tried talking about herself, he showed zero interest, which deeply annoyed her. Despite their obvious friction, having a solid rival pushed him until he was totally exhausted. Every single night, he barely survived a quick bath and cheap meal before heavily crashing into deep sleep. I know what you're thinking. What about the capital? Well, the powerful Blackbird of Dawn group was prepping a mission. Their leader Rickstein, a gritty veteran with salt and pepper hair alongside his deputy Honor, planned to hunt down an absolute unit called the Black Imperial Wolf. Rickstein decisively chose to send a strike team led by skilled archer Glock. He also included 2 younger members, Horn, a talented but wild 17-year-old girl known as the Devil's Hunt Maiden, and her partner Ein. Honestly, Honor felt deeply worried. It was too early for rookies facing this extremely dangerous monster, but Rickstein firmly insisted they needed experience. For safety, they also invited Ral, a mysterious, well-connected adventurer who perfectly knew how to handle the tricky politics of intense hunting. Right near the border, back at Blackbird headquarters, Horn woke up in her loudly energetic mood, instantly bothering Ein. While they bickered exactly like siblings, the core group officially finalized their epic plan. They knew this Black Imperial Wolf was a massive threat, but with veterans like Glock and Rubble involved, they felt totally ready to face the challenge. The confident team was ready to move. Glock, a blonde guy with a long beard and razor-sharp mind, took full charge. He wasn't just a basic fighter, he did the genius thinking, while the rest simply acted as his powerful hands and feet in combat. They needed to move fast, because in this adventuring world, the very first person reaching the prey absolutely wins the grand prize. To reach the city of Hidega super quickly, they rented 4 land dragons. These beasts looked like giant 2-legged lizards, way stronger and faster than horses. Plus, they were smart enough for any absolute beginner to ride smoothly. Their only downside? Pure cowardice. If they saw a beast stronger than themselves, they would instantly bolt. Horn had this incredibly weird habit of calling her favorite mount meat. This absolutely annoyed the ranch owner, who had literally raised that specific creature like his very own daughter. Despite the constant bickering, the whole group galloped right out. That's where we leave it. Training is getting intense. Stick with me here. Zant, an exhausted old master, pushed them to their absolute limits. He explained that being a famous assassin actually meant you totally failed. To him, real pros never fight fair. They take out their target way before the guy even knows what hit him. No warning at all. Forget playing hero or some loud warrior. It is about becoming a silent ghost who strikes and vanishes. Liz was totally impatient. She wanted the power to crush anyone. But our main character had a completely different worry. Pure firepower. He realized that while handling humans was easy, his bow simply lacked the punch to drop high-tier monsters. Physical training could only do so much, because a bow has hard limits. He needed fresh ways to deal massive damage, whether using poison, sneaky traps, or something totally different. After weeks of brutal physical training on a crazy shifting obstacle course, Zant finally gave them a passing grade. Liz was absolutely hyped, but our guy was way too exhausted to even feel joy. Heading back to the city, Liz suddenly dropped a massive bombshell. She was completely broke. Eating out and paying for daily baths had totally drained her wallet. She begged him to go monster hunting with her to make some really fast cash. He flat out refused. He knew they were still too weak to face the dangerous creatures near the city, but Liz refused to stop bothering him. Finally, he gave in, but under one incredibly weird condition. He forced her to take that super creepy, cursed wooden statue he had been stuck carrying. He claimed it was just a cute doll, but once Liz saw the terrifying demonic carving, she totally panicked. She was absolutely sure it would curse her. But a deal is a deal. For any assassin, breaking a promise leaves a massive stain on your whole reputation. Now pay attention closely. With that creepy statue in hand and a big hunt approaching, you and I are about to see if they can survive a real fight. Liz stood right in the giant bird's path, but the monster did not even notice her standing there. It was so obsessed with chasing its original prey that it tried charging right past her into the woods. Even seeing the plan crumble, Liz refused to panic. She stepped right in and swung her sword, aiming for the bird's incredibly thick leg. The blade barely scratched it. Those thick white feathers acted like a giant mattress, absorbing the whole impact. Still, that single strike managed to trip the beast. The massive creature completely lost its balance and tumbled across the dirt road, kicking up a massive dust cloud. It let out a furious screech, finally realizing a brand new enemy blocked its path. But Liz was not about to let it recover. She rushed in lightning fast, but the bird was way quicker than expected. It used its crazy strong legs to launch off the dirt, leaping high into the sky. Even without flying, that single massive jump put the beast completely above Liz. It came crashing down like a massive falling boulder, aiming to completely crush her under its heavy weight. Liz dodged just in time, but the beast, hitting the ground forcefully, shook the earth. You see it too, right? This bird is a literal feathered tank. Every single time Liz tried to get close, the beast would either leap away or use its huge body to block her attacks. It was painfully clear a regular sword would do zero damage against that much padding. As the battle intensely heated up, the 5 adventurers from earlier watched from a distance, looking totally terrified. They were the exact same guys who miserably failed to hunt this beast earlier. One guy was holding his completely broken arm, and they all looked ready to run. They simply could not believe a lightly geared girl was fighting a monster that just destroyed their entire squad. Liz finally backed off for a quick second to catch her breath. She stared at the beast, then at her blade, quickly realizing she needed a totally new strategy here. The angry bird puffed its chest, looking way more massive, and prepared for another insanely dangerous charge. Liz shifted her stance, dropping her center of gravity. She was not aiming for a huge, flashy finish anymore. She just needed one tiny opening. The beast hissed and launched forward again, its sharp beak and claws totally ready to shred through absolute anything. Liz waited until the absolute last second. Right before the beast crashed into her, she slid smoothly underneath, completely using the monster's own heavy momentum against it. It was an incredibly risky play, but it was the only way to bypass that feathered armor and expose a real weak point. Liz and the white bird collided hard on the street, rolling from the sheer impact. Liz never missed a beat, gripping her glowing silver sword. She lunged forward quickly and completely sliced the beast's leg. While the monster struggled, Liz finished the job and took it down completely. Watching closely, it was obvious Liz possessed the raw power to hunt elite monsters. But she lacked the mindset. A hunt never ends just because the target falls. It only ends when you get safely home. While Liz stood there, feeling proud of her swift victory, The surrounding area was an absolute disaster. A huge mess was everywhere, and in the wild, that smell invites every hungry monster nearby. The cleanup was a disaster. Liz had zero idea how to handle the fallen beast. She watched confused, while he wrapped the legs, scrubbed the mess, and masked the scent. "Trust me, you and I are going to love what happens next. Alright, stick with me here." When asked to dismantle the monster, Liz actually confessed to having zero hands-on experience whatsoever. No time for lessons. They quickly ripped out the demon nucleus, that glowing magic stone right near its heart, and both bolted straight for the city just as more monsters began closing in. Arriving back at the city gates covered in wet monster slime, the guards finally let them through, seeing the parts. Sure, the hunt was technically a success, but honestly, it felt like a total failure without proper planning. After dropping their hard-earned loot at the guild, the two just parted ways, totally exhausted. Later that exact afternoon, brutal training kicked off under old Zant. He immediately sensed their tension, asking about the morning hunt. Liz stayed quiet, keeping the story brief, while totally leaving out all their worst mistakes. Zant wisely didn't push for details, shifting focus to qualities. Those epic special powers hunters possess. Zant explained that Liz holds the Sword of the Dark Hunt. This wild power completely cancels out a demon's natural toughness, making them super easy to slice right through like paper. The massive downside? It puts insane stress on weapons, making them crack and shatter after just a few uses. This was exactly the crazy firepower they lacked. Not just raw strength, but the ability to bypass any defense. Then, the conversation smoothly shifted toward that other special quality, those mysterious glasses. Now pay attention here. Unlike Liz's raw combat power, this unique information-based ability lets the user see tiny details others completely miss. It's definitely not for direct combat, but provides a massive advantage, since absolutely nobody knows it's active. Zant warned that while keeping secrets is super smart, staying too distant from your own allies creates a serious weakness. Zant pushed Liz to practice, keeping his power completely active during training, revealing that Liz still had a long way before it became purely second nature. As Liz moved away to practice sword swings, Zant pulled the other right aside. He explained how both of them were really just building their basic foundation. Liz had physical training, but zero real experience, while the other had survival skills, but desperately needed to refine his ability just to survive. What was coming next? They both had to stop acting like total amateurs, turning those raw qualities into powers they could use without even thinking. Zanto, the old man teaching them, didn't waste time on small talk. He told young Al that those glasses definitely were not just for show. They formed a solid foundation for something bigger. He explained that various types of special eyes exist out there, like the appraisal eyes merchants use, or even the absolutely legendary evil eye. Zanto broke it down super simply. Visual abilities usually fall into three main categories. The first extracts raw information from what you see. The second lets you give information, kind of like sharing memories. The third, easily the most dangerous, rewrites information completely, like hypnotizing someone or turning them into stone. While Al's glasses mostly hit that first category, Zanto pointed out an insane twist. Al wasn't merely using simple magic to see things. You and I both know this is huge. He was physically creating those powerful glasses, giving him unmatched potential. Al instantly decided to test his absolute limits. Focusing hard on Zanto, he realized he could literally read the old master's hidden stats and qualities exactly as if they were written down. He clearly saw Zanto possessed two hidden talents, including one massively improving his accuracy in a fight. When Al mentioned this, Zanto turned deadly serious, realizing the kid saw things he didn't even know about himself. Zanto immediately stopped the lesson, heavily warning Al that knowing other people's deep secrets is a super fast way to get eliminated in this dark world. To clear the heavy air, Zanto ordered Liz, the girl training nearby, to attack Ale with everything she had. He really wanted them feeling the intense pressure of actual combat. They grabbed wooden weapons to avoid a fatal disaster, but that intensity stayed real. Liz was insanely fast, her glowing sword feeling super heavy every single hit. Al totally struggled to keep up, barely defending until both of them were completely exhausted and gasping hard. While Al leaned over, a mysterious woman's voice weakly whispered right in his ear. It was actually Solidica, a totally ghost-like woman becoming his next crazy instructor. She quietly asked if he saw spirits. Al quickly adjusted those glasses, utterly shocked to find 3 glowing spirits just floating right around her. Meanwhile, back in that village Al left a month ago, his friend Seller finally realized just how much he had genuinely done for them. Without him hunting, cooking, and keeping everything running, their daily life had become extremely hard. She spent this entire past month just learning to survive on her own. Now, she visited a local poison expert, an old lady looking like some classic wicked wizard. Chelier wasn't looking for dark revenge here, though. She had her own epic plan moving and needed the right tools to make it happen. Her plan was simple. Hunt down a dangerous forest demon called an Ironhead for decent meat. Seller, Florentine, and Sash grew super tired of nuts, so they teamed up for their very first real mission. So what do we make of this? Seller grabbed paralysis poison from a creepy village witch. Stick with me here. She needed a safe knockout method, mainly because they actually planned to feast on this monster later, keeping it totally edible. Back at the campsite, our 3 cheerful rookies geared up. Florentine, a girl with insane physical strength, practiced throwing stones hard enough to shatter boulders. Sash, our decisive spear expert, trained away with his master, a 10-year-old girl named Paper Swallow. But seriously, do not underestimate her age. Paper Swallow is the village's top spear master, an absolute prodigy, treating Sash like a total rookie. When it was finally time, Paper Swallow led them up the mountain. She explained these peaks were usually strictly off limits to rookies, mainly because the monsters up here were way too overpowered for beginners. Even a hunting solo was a rare exception. Paper Swallow ordered them to stay super sharp while she dashed ahead to locate and lure back their giant target. Waiting around, the tension got super heavy. Sash looked super nervous, trying to stay calm by practicing his spear forms. Finally, Paper Swallow dashed back, signaling everyone to take their positions. An iron head burst from the trees, a massive, hairy, bull-headed giant looking absolutely fierce. Now, pay close attention here. This massive, intelligent beast charged right in, stepping perfectly onto Seller's brilliantly hidden magic circle. The spell worked just like superglue, instantly sticking the giant's feet straight down. Without missing a beat, Florentine pelted it with stones dripping in paralysis potion. Hitting like literal bullets, the rocks dealt damage and pumped the potion straight into its system. The iron head wobbled, legs trembling as the effect spiked. This was the perfect opening. Sash rushed in with an epic spear strike aimed at the belly. A seriously powerful strike, but things suddenly went sideways. Instead of dropping his weapon to retreat, Sash's ingrained training habit totally took over. He actually tried yanking the spear out. That split-second hesitation spelled total disaster. Despite the heavy poison, the Ironhead flexed its insane strength, swinging a giant arm. The brutal strike nailed Sash directly, launching him and his spear flying backward into the trees. Instantly, their flawless game plan turned incredibly scary. The beast roared, looming over them like an unstoppable force, proving that one tiny slip-up in a real fight can absolutely cost you everything. You saw that, right? Sash was perfectly fine, but now he's down. While Seer screamed his name, their fierce teacher, Paper Swallow, barked at the boy to stand up and keep on fighting. She was absolutely furious, fighting so fiercely that the giant armored Ironhead hesitated. In that split second of confusion, Sash found his second win. Lunging right from the dirt, he drove his spear super deep into Ironhead's side. This dramatic final move drained every drop of his remaining strength before he collapsed again. Paper Swallow absolutely didn't waste that epic opening. Moving literally faster than lightning, she dashed up the giant's body, delivering a devastating neck strike using her heavy metal training bar. A loud crunch filled the air as Ironhead got knocked flying. Sash looked terrible. Busted ribs, a fractured arm, and a shattered collarbone, but he survived. Chelier instantly jumped in, using bright healing magic on him. Paper Swallow cheerfully joked. Sash was simply too stubborn to feel fear, which explains why he could stand back up after taking such a massive beating. She explained, most rookies quit adventuring entirely after a trauma like that. simply because their fighting spirit completely breaks. But our boy Sash already smashed that hurdle. Later, Paper Swallow reported the mission to Misty Horse, a top village senior. She noted that the entire mountain just felt incredibly strange. Monsters were mysteriously vanishing, leaving the forest way to quiet. That usually signals a massive, terrifying predator claiming the territory. A few days later, they finally got their crazy answer. A literal legendary beast, the Black Royal Wolf, had just been spotted. Meanwhile, an energetic young guy was wrapping up his own secret underground training. For an entire month, he learned elite information gathering from a mysterious, super pale woman named Solidica. She straight up looked like a ghost, barely eating and surviving mainly on water. Through this intense training, our guy realized his unique special ability, which he called his glasses, was actually insanely overpowered. It let him clearly see and understand things others simply couldn't. He smartly kept these findings totally secret, fully knowing that if people discovered his true power level, he'd become a huge target. Solidica, who could magically merge with spirits to become an actual literal ghost, casually told him she was finally done teaching. She didn't care what he did with this new power, knowing she could effortlessly defeat him anytime. But despite her frosty vibe, the cheerful young man actually felt bad for her. He stubbornly grabbed her hand, dragging her out for a real meal, knowing she'd totally starve if just left all alone. Heading outside, they walked right past another intense training session, where an old guy named Xanto was busy sparring hard against a determined girl named Liz. You and I both see it, everyone here pushes to their absolute limits. Jump in with me. A month of wild training finally wrapped up. Liz pushed past her absolute limits sparring with Xant, a seriously hardcore teacher. Meanwhile, Solidica completely wrapped up her lessons on the basics of information systems. Since everyone handles these skills totally differently, there is not much else to teach. Now, it is totally up to the students to discover their unique style. Later at dinner, the whole crew gathered around for some hearty bread and meat stew. Solidica is ridiculously picky, loudly claiming she hates almost everything. Carrots, onions, even the meat. Yet, she wipes her plate clean anyway, without any real drama. Over dinner, Liz admitted the training was incredibly brutal, but they are ready to move forward. With their current lessons finished, they figured it was time to head back to the village, check on everyone, and maybe pick up some fresh archery and medicine skills. But those plans crashed when Rhoda, an elite adventurer leading the local assassins, walked right in without knocking, and he definitely was not chatting. He showed up because he needs a specialist. Rhoda heard rumors about their insane talent for tracking rare monsters like the white bird and sky lizard. Now, he demands their skills for a massive problem. A terrifying black royal wolf has appeared in the nearby mountains. Now, pay close attention here. This is no ordinary monster. It is a gigantic, lightning-fast beast, with iron-tough fur. Normally, these wolves totally ignore humans unless attacked. But just being there causes massive chaos. They are pushing every aggressive monster out of the mountains, forcing them down toward roads and villages, putting innocent travelers and poor merchants in extreme danger. So, Rhoda is assembling an elite squad of strong fighters to hunt this wolf and stop the madness. He made it crystal clear that rejecting this mission is not an option, because this beast is so incredibly fast and unpredictable. They desperately need an expert tracker to lock onto its trail before it relocates. Solidica sensed the heavy tension and quickly pulled Lissa away, giving them absolute privacy for the details. Left alone with Rhoda, the deal was officially sealed. The dangerous hunt kicks off the day after tomorrow. Once the remaining members of the strike team arrive, they expect a short, high-stakes mission. But since they are marching deep into totally uncharted mountain territory, literally anything could go wrong. Next morning, Xant laid down the absolute final word. The squad moves out early tomorrow. Time to prep the gear and march right into the wild woods. The very next morning, things escalated extremely fast. Before the sun even dared to rise, Rhoda arrived at the house to collect everyone. I was totally passed out, but leaped from bed the second I felt his terrifying aura coming. We had to scramble fast because the strict plan was to deploy immediately. And man, the day before had been ridiculously exhausting. After surviving a brutal morning of running and sparring in that crazy underground gym, where time practically disappears, I finally wrap things up. Xanto, that old man who is insanely stronger than he looks, already finished training Liz. Liz is a young girl with legendary potential for battling demons, which is exactly why she is getting pushed past her breaking point. After a fast bath, I bumped right into Liz. We usually share the same brutal schedule, but it was surprisingly rare to actually cross paths. Since I was still completely in charge of cooking, I mentioned I would head home to prep dinner, but right before I left, she stopped me. She randomly wanted to know if I knew any super rare or amazing food spots downtown. I told her about this epic gelato spot and some awesome meat rolls, but she actually made me wait while she finished bathing. Standing there, the upcoming monster hunt had me totally stressed out. We were chasing a black imperial wolf, a monster so insanely dangerous it is basically meant for legendary tier heroes to handle. You and I know I'm no hero. Facing a beast that could crush me instantly was totally terrifying. When Liz finally stepped out, she dropped a massive bomb. She was coming on this hunt too. Xanto convinced her that witnessing a high-level hunt was an incredibly rare learning experience. Even though I hated seeing more people in extreme danger, I realized she actually has way more combat talent than I do. As we talked, two mysterious women strolled right out of the bath. One had pale skin and blonde hair, and the other was deeply tanned with fierce, athletic features. They totally looked like regular adventurers, but their confident posture and sharp movements suggested massive skill, most likely elite knights from some neighboring kingdom. The blonde woman playfully joked around, asking if Liz and I were secret lovers. I panicked and denied it so fast that Liz actually got super offended and punched me right in the ribs. A super awkward argument broke out. I desperately tried explaining that just because someone is incredibly beautiful does not mean they aren't dangerous. I actually compared the tanned woman to a thorny maze, and the blonde lady to a glowing, poisonous flower. Basically, I meant they were gorgeous, but definitely best kept far away. But for Liz, I panicked, lost my poetry, and called her edible grass, which obviously made her 10 times angrier. So what do you and I make of this? The night women just laughed, totally amused by our hilarious situation. After we finally parted ways, Liz figured these high-ranking knights crossed the border specifically for the Black Imperial Wolf, either chasing epic glory or the insanely rare loot this beast drops. Come along with me, because the simple contract is rapidly turning into something massively epic and unpredictable. Heading home, I hit a shop and grabbed Iron Helmet Tongue, a super rare and incredibly pricey delicacy. My old master always said to eat amazing food before risky missions. It gives you a perfect reason to make it back, just to taste that epic flavor one more time. Back home, Ormer mentor, Solidica, who always looks completely spaced out, was eagerly waiting for our dinner. Despite claiming to totally hate meat, she devoured that pricey meal anyway. We finished eating and crashed early to save energy. Now, standing in the morning chill with Rhoda, the serious reality is finally sinking in. We are heading into the mountains to track a beast that leaves absolutely zero victorious challengers. Time to see if our training pays off. Al and Liz woke up early to meet Rhoda. Rhoda explained they were leaving way ahead of schedule to avoid drawing any attention from city residents. Watch closely here. The target is the Black Royal Wolf, normally peaceful, but if angered, it can easily destroy entire settlements in mere hours. Rhoda warned them to keep this totally secret. If word escaped, reckless adventurers would swarm the mountains and get completely wiped out. Liz mentioned spotting two women at the bathhouse earlier who totally looked like knights. Rhoda confirmed they were indeed knights hiding their identities, telling Liz to just act completely natural and avoid pointing it out. Al totally ignored their titles. He just wanted to dodge the unnecessary drama and toxic attitudes that usually follow those elite ranking warriors. Rhoda teasingly joked about how super close they seemed, then firmly reminded them their official job was strictly carrying luggage and staying totally out of the way. His tone turned deeply serious, warning them never to reveal his shadow agent past, hinting he would deal with them if secrets leaked. They arrived at the Adventurers Guild, entirely packed with serious professionals instead of the usual loudmouths. Two teams waited there. One was those undercover knights, led by a scarred veteran looking like he survived 100 fierce battles. The other team was the Blackbird of Dawn, an absolute top-tier capital city group. To Al's sheer annoyance, his sister A was on that squad. Busy arguing with her teammates, she thankfully missed seeing him right away. The scarred veteran seriously questioned why young kids like Al and Liz were joining this highly dangerous hunt. Rhoda firmly defended them, calling them his final reserves, telling the old man to back off if he hated how the city was actually run. Heading out, Rhoda gently explained to Liz that the veteran old man was not actually being mean. He simply hated seeing young rookies get destroyed out there. It was pure kindness, even if it sounded incredibly harsh. Outside the city, they boarded carriages heading toward the mountains. While Liz chatted with Rhoda about food, Al focused on his ultimate secret ability. I know what you are thinking. Yes, through his magic glasses, Al can instantly copy any active unique power or material just by looking. He had already scanned 3 new abilities. Rhoda's Thunderlight for shooting lightning, a Knight's Life Absorption for massive physical boosting, and the Veteran's Blue Map, which perfectly locates very specific targets. Al realized that while his glasses were completely overpowered, he only copied about half the strength of the original user. He also could never copy a power unless the person actively used it right in front of him. As the carriage violently bumped along, Al kept his eyes firmly shut, processing new skills for the upcoming battle, while Liz continuously nagged him about buying a fancy dinner once this epic job finished. Al sat calmly, with eyes closed, organizing his chaotic thoughts, while Liz and Rhoda loudly argued about money and extremely expensive premium drinks. Liz kept acting incredibly pushy about being broke, and Rhoda, a highly skilled swordsman and shadow operative, finally gave in to her endless demands. Al totally ignored their loud chatter to completely focus on the 3 epic qualities he just registered using his magical glasses. His glasses are absolutely not normal. They magically let him copy and use the special abilities of others. He can only register an awesome ability when someone else is actually using it. Even then, he only gets half the original power. From Rhoda, he copied Thunderlight, epic magic shooting raw lightning directly from his hands. From a knight they met, he scored Life Absorption, boosting his body by instantly pulling energy from his surroundings. From the old veteran, he picked up Blue Map, a super handy skill for tracking specific hidden items nearby. As the carriage kept rolling, Al secretly wondered why Rhoda was hiding his epic lightning abilities. He could not ask because revealing his copying power was way too risky. Instead, he shifted the conversation toward their current mission reward. Rhoda explained, they get paid, but score 0 wolf materials. So what do you and I think happens next? Stick with me. This legendary wolf's fangs and magical fur are worth an absolute fortune. Liz really wanted a fang for a new knife, and Il absolutely needed one too, since his old blade recently snapped. Rhoda suddenly dropped a massive bombshell on them. Their squad wasn't actually leading this hunt. Instead, some elite foreign knights had arrived specifically to take down this wild beast. To completely avoid a messy international drama, the local guild leader let those fancy knights take charge, leaving Rhoda's squad as simple backup. Liz was totally annoyed that outsiders were stealing their epic prey, but Ale and Rhoda totally fine with it. If someone else wanted to do the dangerous heavy lifting and risk getting wiped out, they were happy staying safely behind. Rhoda casually admitted that while he excels at fighting humans, hunting giant monsters just isn't his style. Their carriage finally rolled to a complete stop right at the massive mountain's base. A scarred, veteran knight gathered everyone together and announced the strategy. The 30-plus fighters would split into 3 separate squads to search completely different paths. This clever tactic let them cover way more ground without tripping over each other when the monster struck. Ale explained to a very confused Liz that moving as one massive group is actually way slower and riskier, since fighters easily trip or accidentally strike their own allies during chaotic brawls. With the battle plan locked in, the 3 squads rolled out. Ale kept a safe distance from Liz to dodge her fiery temper, preparing for the steep climb while keeping his newly copied abilities primed for the summit. The confident knights took charge, splitting the group down 2 paths. Ale and Liz joined Rhoda and a few seasoned adventurers on the longest route around the mountain, while the knights marched directly to face the Black Royal Wolf head-on. Young Rhoda effortlessly commanded total respect from all the veteran adventurers around him. Watch closely here. Ale noticed these knights were way too eager to claim this wild beast for their own glory. Ale quietly stayed at the very back, intentionally keeping a low profile. He definitely wasn't a frontline brawler, but he had been secretly training his special ability for this exact moment. This insane power let him completely copy and store other people's traits, like boosted strength, perfect vision, or even flashy elemental magic. He had epic skills ready, including a wicked electric lightning bolt he'd previously copied from Rhoda. Wanting to test it, Ale sparked a tiny electric charge in secret. The magic violently stung his hand, leaving faint smoke, but he smoothly played it off as a rogue branch hitting him when Liz glanced back. But Rhoda, an absolute pro assassin, instantly saw right through Ale's clumsy act. He pulled him aside, revealing he totally knew about the boy's hidden copying trait. Instead of getting mad, Rhoda gave him a totally serious warning. Using that raw lightning move without training could literally fry his hand to a crisp, or completely destroy him. Rhoda shared a heavy, painful memory about losing his own hand to that exact power, forcing him to get it magically regrown. He firmly warned Ale to stay incredibly careful and stick close to Liz, noting their genuinely strong and honest bond. As they chatted, Rhoda started acting ridiculously carefree, jokingly talking about grabbing drinks and asking out those pretty female knights right after this hunt ended. Ale, it absolutely sounded like the guy was setting up a gigantic doom flag. Suddenly, red signal smoke exploded into the sky. The legendary wolf was finally spotted. You and I aren't ready for this. When they arrived, the Black Royal Wolf was way more terrifying than any rumor. It was a massive, intelligent beast, with glossy black fur and piercing blue eyes, easily huge enough to swallow a grown fighter completely whole. Those 4 elite knights were already locked in a terrifying clash with it. They were incredibly skilled, using flawless teamwork to land shallow strikes on the beast's legs. But this beast was incredibly fast and overwhelmingly powerful. The scarred veteran knight desperately shouted for Rhoda's backup. Fearing this agile monster might actually escape, Rhoda readied his weapons to jump in, tossing Ale one absolute, final piece of advice. Stay completely hidden. But if he decided to attack, he was totally on his own. Rhoda charged into the chaotic fray, shouting, leaving Ale and Liz safely hidden among the trees. Ale felt the crushing pressure of the beast's presence, realizing one tiny mistake meant an instant game over. But he slowly steadied his breathing and readied his bow, desperately searching for any tiny opening to provide support. Liz watched the wild battlefield closely, knowing this was a rare chance to learn. Before things exploded, there was an awkward moment where she took a painful hit to the stomach, but she totally brushed it off and stayed laser-focused. The morning sun was just starting to rise as a massive pitch-black demon called the Obsidian Wolf appeared. It looked incredibly strong and cool, but there was no time to admire it. This beast was an absolute menace. The knights chose a wide-open mountain path for this clash to see everything clearly. Honestly, the setup worked out completely perfectly for a hidden sniper. While the elite knights and skilled fighter Rhoda held the intense front line, the plan was to safely hide in the trees and snipe directly from the shadows. Even though a normal bow wouldn't pierce the monster's thick fur, just hitting it was enough for now. Trust me, with its insane speed on 4 legs, pinning this total nightmare down won't be easy. Let's jump into this battle. Rhoda moved with total control, distracting the monster effortlessly. While the rest paired up, 2 female knights took bait duty. One rocked a heavy metal shield and a tan, while her partner kept it light and fast. The heavy hitter tanked the worst strikes, blocking those brutal claws with her shield. But this beast, extremely smart. It changed its angle, sending her flying. As the wolf lunged forward to end her with one terrible snap, our hero finally knew it was time to step in. An arrow shot out from the trees, striking the wolf right as its jaws opened. But this was no ordinary arrow. It carried a sound spell. Suddenly, a massive, booming voice echoed across the battlefield, screaming something totally ridiculous about giant chests. The blast was so loud and unexpected that literally everyone, from the knights to the wolf, completely froze in utter confusion. Super awkward and incredibly embarrassing. But hey, it worked. The beast backed off, saving the tank. The squad leader, an older, scarred veteran named Lou Hintz, quickly shouted and snapped his entire team right back to reality. He realized that weird shouting was actually cover fire. He yelled for the sniper to keep going, but maybe change the message next time. The battle kicked off again, and more sound arrows flew. One screamed about being a sad creature, and another blared a weird comment about wanting to date two people at once. Total chaos, but it kept the wolf totally off balance. Finally, a brand new fighter named Horn jumped into the fray. Fast and aggressive, she wielded a short sword and dagger. She taunted the beast, acting like a total brat until it completely snapped and tried to swallow her whole. In a split second, Horn pulled an insane counter move, dodging fast while slashing the very inside of the monster's mouth. She leaped right onto its back, burying her glowing dagger deep into its throat. Watch closely here. She was actually using a special skill known as Dark Hunt. This move breaks natural armor, making enemies vulnerable to standard weapons. By leaving her dagger jammed in its throat, she totally shattered the monster's magical defenses. With the beast finally vulnerable, Lu Hintze and the rest charged in for the finish, aiming straight for its heart and throat. At the exact same time, another hidden archer named Ainli rained down perfect precision shots, joining the massive push to end things forever. Her arrow smashed the wolf's leg, but it didn't sound like any normal hit. A massive crash shook the air, forcing the black royal wolf to cross its legs and sending it sliding across the ground. Pure magic, specifically materialization and maximum impact. Ainli used her bow to deliver a blow so impossibly heavy it completely bypassed the monster's toughness. The creature tried getting back up, but its front shoulder was completely trashed. It crashed hard, and the hunters didn't hesitate. An old knight charged in, swinging a massive greatsword, putting every ounce of strength into a brutal strike at its throat. At that exact second, Glock rushed forward with his spear, landing a perfectly timed thrust straight into the heart. It looked like a super simple move, but it was pure skill. With those two strikes, the Black Royal Wolf was officially finished. Everyone breathed a huge sigh of relief, thinking they were safe. Our hero headed down, but you saw this coming, right? The knights weren't happy. They called him out for being reckless. Glock was absolutely fuming, yelling that joking around on a live battlefield gets innocent people terribly hurt. The protagonist made absolutely no excuses. He knew he messed up by testing an unfamiliar sound bomb during such an intense hunt. Eventually, the old knight, Lu Hintze, stepped in and finally calmed Glock down. He thanked our guy for helping, but gave a strict warning. His raw skill and magic power were totally out of balance. He had a master's aim, but a total rookie's experience. Right as things finally settled down, the two female knights jumped into the mix. One of the girls, a white-haired girl named Saylara, playfully stroked his back, while her tanned friend, Aurora, completely lost it and threatened to wreck her if she didn't stop. It was a super weird, uncomfortable moment that made our guy just want to go home. But the old knight had one last thing to say. He revealed they were foreign knights hunting down a very specific black royal wolf, one that was already badly injured and missing an entire leg. The monster they just defeated wasn't their target. This meant a second, way more dangerous wolf was roaming nearby, and it already deeply hated all humans. Our hero quickly scanned the area using his heat vision. He couldn't spot a single thing, meaning the second beast was either far away or hiding perfectly. The proud knight swallowed his pride and begged our hero for help. He knew his team was too slow to track it before it attacked a nearby village. Our guy totally wanted to help, especially since a rogue beast could wander near his own home. But he had to check with Rhoda first, since he was technically just an assistant here. Praying for the beast, a habit from his master, he joined Rhoda and Ayn. Trust me, you'll want to see what happens next. Stick with me, because our hero is still totally flustered from those female knights teasing him, and that wild argument from earlier. But pushing past the awkwardness, this mission was far from over. A second beast remained, meaning the real hunt starts now. After that epic showdown, Al felt absolutely drained. Making things even funnier, everyone kept teasing him about that wild knight lady clinging to him. Earlier, Rhoda even joked he was totally jealous and wanted some of that spotlight for himself. Al just wanted to change the subject, so he hurried over to the veteran knight, Lu Hintze, to solve one final mystery. Where exactly was that second black royal wolf they were tracking? Al started putting the pieces together. The knights were chasing a wounded beast, yet the one they just defeated was completely healthy. This meant there were two beasts. Lu Hintze and his tough scout, Allo, were totally stumped about losing the trail, but Al knew this was no random coincidence. The injured beast clearly climbed this exact mountain to find its powerful partner for safe protection. While they chatted, Celia, that gorgeous but bossy lady in white, showed up. She reported the local adventurers were super impatient to head home. Al quickly asked how long they had guarded the mountain, and she replied it was 7 days. There was the missing link. The healthy one already lived here, and the wounded one arrived days later to hide. Using that awesome blue map power in his glasses, Al scanned for another monster core energy. He found 0 heat signatures, usually meaning nothing was breathing anymore. But a glowing blue light appeared deep inside a hidden cave down the cliff. He and Allo immediately climbed down to investigate. Inside, they discovered the second black royal wolf, but it had already faded away, completely exhausted from its old injuries. Allo grabbed the core and genuinely thanked Al for helping, admitting he was absolutely right about everything. Despite looking a bit scary, she totally respected him now. Job finished, the knights packed up the beast to head back to town. Al was totally done with these chaotic adults who were already plotting to waste their reward money on endless drinks. Now watch this. He decided to sneak off early for some solo hunting. Rhoda let him leave, but forced Liz to tag along since the messy aftermath made her dizzy. Al wasn't exactly thrilled, but it easily beat staying in that super loud camp. They tossed their gear onto a carriage and began the long trek back, finally leaving that mountain. The epic hunt was officially over, and the carriages were completely stuffed with a massive black royal beast. Those horses definitely had their work cut out for them, but for the adventurers, the journey back was strictly on foot. There was literally 0 space left to sit down. Glock mentioned the entire beast needed a proper guild evaluation first before anybody saw a single gold coin. Rhoda eagerly suggested throwing a party, but between massive exhaustion and heavy logistics, that plan totally vanished. Not that it mattered. Hunting small monsters with Liz bought a decent meal. By the time evening training ended, the entire city was completely buzzing. Taking down a legendary black royal beast, especially a rare 2-headed one, was a seriously massive deal. You can imagine the hype, right? Defeating a monster that high-ranked became the absolute perfect excuse for everyone to loudly party until the sun came up. That wild noise was everywhere, but pure exhaustion acted like a heavy blanket, and sleep honestly came super easily. The next morning, that peace was totally shattered by some incredibly annoying knocking. It refused to stop until the door opened to reveal Glock. He looked terrible, smelling like drinks, covered in dirt, looking barely conscious. He was absolutely shocked it was noon, having partied hard since the previous day. Apparently, that wild celebration turned into an endless marathon. Seeing him look so rough, Al planned a quick escape, but Glock firmly insisted on dinner later. He even suggested hitting the local bathhouse first to freshen up. While heading to the baths later, it was super obvious the city's festive mood hadn't faded. Inside those baths, the scene was just as chaotic. Glock was there chilling, shamelessly chugging more liquor right from the bottle, looking like an absolute mess. Despite that messy look, his body was covered in scars, telling the story of an insanely dangerous life. A totally flawed adult, but possessing serious rugged strength. Ready for this? Just as Al tried leaving, Glock grabbed his shoulder and whispered something game-changing. He had new info about the glasses. After soaking, they hit a super fancy Main Street restaurant. It felt way too expensive for any normal adventurer, but Glock loudly promised he was covering the entire bill. Inside, 2 female knights from yesterday's epic hunt were already sitting there eating. "All right, jump in with me," one tanned woman stomped right over with major attitude. Super annoyed he rejected her invite earlier, Glock stepped in to play peacemaker. He reminded everyone she really just wanted to thank her savior from the hunt. Despite her grumpy face, once they grabbed a quiet corner table, Glock dropped his playful vibe completely. He got totally serious and dropped a massive bombshell. A direct search request for a very specific guy just went straight to the Blackbird of Dawn. Basically the strongest adventurer squad in the capital. Hiring guys that famous costs absolute crazy money, meaning the mysterious client was filthy rich and desperate. Glock warned that if this search dragged on too long, An absolutely massive bounty might drop on the target's head. Glock explained that while his squad only takes completely legal jobs, being hunted like this is just insanely dangerous. Soon, literally every bounty hunter and random stranger out there will be looking for him. But then came part 2 of the conversation, the part that actually mattered most. Glock leaned in, finally bringing up the magic glasses. He knew exactly what they were. His crazy knowledge going way deeper than your average passing adventurer. This wasn't just some casual chat anymore. It was a clear warning that his past was catching up. Now, pay close attention here. Glock revealed a massive castle leak. Turns out, the Blackbird Group is secretly paying major bribes to track anyone moving from the far countryside straight into the main capital. They were specifically watching our main guy and Horn. Glock tried playing it off as a necessary evil, claiming he uses the secret info to keep clueless newbies totally safe from getting scammed or forced into doing bad stuff. But honestly, he fully admits it gives Blackbird first dibs on any sweet loot or materials they want. Our hero quickly realized something totally huge. Glock knows about the glasses, but not what they actually do. Glock seriously thinks they are just a physical summon, not some insanely overpowered tool for seeing everyone's hidden private info. Thank goodness, because if anyone knew that true power, they would literally hunt him forever. To instantly deflect the heat, our guy playfully jabbed Glock, telling him it is super rude to just randomly pry into other people's deep secrets. Glock laughed it off, but then dropped one final piece of seriously heavy news. Some insanely wealthy client is throwing crazy money specifically to track down those exact glasses. After that incredibly heavy chat, our guy tried enjoying his tasty food while processing everything. He figured this mysterious client had to be super rich and powerful, probably someone with strong castle ties who clearly saw the glasses he delivered earlier. Right as he was finally finishing his meal, those 2 female knights from before, Lara and Erlo, sat down. They started playfully teasing Glock, eventually pressuring our main guy into having his first ever real drink. He tried refusing, but they aggressively pushed a super sweet dragon killer drink onto him anyway. Everything went totally black, and honestly, this is exactly where you and I start asking some major questions. Pure panic hit him until he realized he was still wearing his underwear. Looking right next to him, he saw a man, not Glock or those women, but a young, seriously muscular blonde knight. This was Ravi, or Robin, the quiet 4th knight, who barely spoke. Robin woke up totally calm, gently explaining that absolutely nothing weird happened. They both prefer girls, and Robin is actually a happy newlywed about to become a proud dad. Robin explained the girls felt super bad for getting him so hammered that he started wildly stripping and just completely blacking out on them. Turns out, our tough main character is a total lightweight who cannot handle his liquor. Sure, totally. Losing control was pretty embarrassing, but he actually realized something cool. For a few solid hours, that crazy drink completely wiped away all his stress. He is honestly starting to think that, despite totally hating being an irresponsible adult, he actually kind of loved feeling perfectly free from all his daily problems. Al woke up in Robin's room with the massive gap in. Stick with me here, Robin explained. Al tried stripping last night, forcing them to step in. Ali felt super awkward, but he completely trusted Robin. Turns out, after that wild sunburn chaos, Al's buddy Glock was totally left to suffer. Sacrificed to Leah, that scarred old guy who is actually a fierce border captain. So while Al slept perfectly, poor Glock had a brutal night and felt incredibly down about it. Soon after, the royal knights and that old man packed up, heading straight back to their kingdom. Now watch this pivot. Ali grabbed a fast breakfast, said bye to Robin, and completely brushed off last night's weirdness like a champ. He felt absolutely amazing. Zero hangover, just pumped for training at Gertz's place. Walking into the underground gym, he immediately bumped into Liz, his awesome fellow trainee. She instantly teased him for staying out late, jokingly asking if he liked guys after hearing he crashed with Robin. Al just smiled, keeping a cool, mysterious vibe, which obviously annoyed her completely. Then, instructors Rhoda and Zant arrived, holding massive surprises. Rhoda handed Ali and Liz bags of fangs from that black royal wolf. Trust me, you and I know these are insanely rare and valuable rewards. Let's dive in. Rhoda explained that despite being mere trainees, their relentless hard work totally earned this reward. He even tossed Al some extra cash as a personal thanks, jokingly warning him not to waste it all on drinks before the conversation turned incredibly serious. Rhoda brought up the Bryn Tower, a notorious academy for shadow operatives. Originally, Al was going there, while Al's current village only covered the basics. The tower was where fierce competition truly happened. Liz was totally on board, but Al hesitated. He definitely didn't want to learn how to eliminate targets. He simply wanted to achieve pure strength. Zant stepped in, clarifying the tower wasn't just about taking lives anymore. They were shifting focus to survival and hunting massive monsters. Basically top-tier epic adventure work. This definitely sparked Al's interest. Later that evening, Liz pulled him aside. She admitted that despite her superior sword skills, she knew Al was undeniably stronger and way more dangerous overall. She proudly called him both a respected rival and a close friend, sincerely begging him to join her journey at the tower. Before leaving, Liz dropped one final piece of news. Solidica, their totally eccentric teacher, desperately wanted that creepy demon statue Al created. Al sighed in pure relief. He'd been desperately struggling to ditch the cursed thing without breaking his promise to never just throw it away. Handing it to Solidica was the perfect solution. Watch closely now. 3 days later, Al and Liz officially joined Bryn Tower. Meanwhile, miles away, Knight Arlo was having an incredibly rough time. He sighed deeply, consumed by heavy regret and deep shame over his embarrassing behavior back in the city. His captain, Lahance, and his other teammates, including the absolutely gorgeous Saylara, glared at him with icy cold eyes as they traveled back to the Belgarath Kingdom after finishing their mission. As they rested their horses near a forest, Saylara playfully noted that Arlo's dramatic behavior was just because he'd finally fallen in love. Even though the entire situation was an absolute mess, Arlo was currently an absolute wreck, and while he sulked by himself, his fellow knights, Lahance and Ravi, were desperately trying to piece together the pure chaos from the night before. Ravi happened to be the Witten family's third son, a house rumored among commoners to be ruthless, even though nobles knew they weren't actually that bad. Ravi joined the knights to clear his family's dark name and build a solid reputation for his future kid. He's a massive guy, but surprisingly sharp at picking up on tiny details. Their chat suddenly shifted to a mysterious girl who looked exactly like the second Belgarath princess. She was absolutely gorgeous, sweet, and full of secrets, even claiming she forgot her birth details. Some suspected she only became a knight through elite high-level connections, but nobody knew for sure. When her age finally came up, the guys quickly realized she was around 15, while Arlo was 19. Since both Lahance and Ravi married women with similar age gaps, they agreed 4 years was perfectly fine and moved on. They then shifted focus to the boy at the center of last night's insane drama. We both know what's coming. Ravi returned to find an absolutely shocking scene. Arlo was directly on top of a man named Glock, brutally beating him down. Lahance, arriving shortly after, simply assumed Glock had just hit on Arlo, but reality was way weirder. The boy wasn't even drunk. He was just acting on pure instinct. Arlo was crying silently, tears heavily streaming down his face, while their friend Saylara stood right there laughing at him. It definitely wasn't a friendly laugh either. It felt so intense. It honestly seemed like she truly hated him. One adventurer present looked completely ready to grab the boy and run away, terrified by the incredibly heavy, dark atmosphere. It started when Arlo and the crew let the inexperienced boy try his very first alcoholic drink. One woman actually admitted she was the one heavily pushing for it, jokingly claiming that alcohol was simply a fantastic way to smoothly spark a little romance. She playfully pointed out that even highly respectable knights like Lahance and Ravi had their own wild histories before marriage. Trust me, it became totally clear that the single innocent drink was exactly what triggered the entire insane blowout.